Hi, I'm Greg Lefebvre, the creator and host of the Compulsive Storyteller podcast. Welcome to another segment of Pass the Mic, where once or twice a month we invite a talented guest with a great story to join us on the pod to tell their story, or to chat with me about the art of storytelling. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Fadia Monserrath, whose name you may remember from the credits of the Compulsive Storyteller. She is the sound editor and SFX creator of this podcast. Fadia Monserrath is a filmmaker and the founder of FOD Studio, a platform to step into an imaginative world where bizarre meets spiritual and life experiences are translated into captivating art. Fadia's story is entitled Coming to the USA. Welcome to Pass the Mic, Fadia.
Hi, Greg. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Pleasure being here.
My pleasure.
So I was born and raised in Mexico in an industrial city up in the north called Torreon in the state of Coahuila. It's purely desert, so dryness, dirt, dust, pretty much the Hollywood Western movie landscape, like when they're having a duel and you see the tumbleweed rolling around. But also that's where I have seen the most beautiful sunsets. I had a lovely childhood. I grew up around a huge extended family, very close to my cousins, my uncles, aunts, and my grandparents, who were big presence in my life. That's something that I adore about Mexican culture. Grandparents really do bind the family together. I mean, I have like 30 cousins all together from my mom's side and my dad's side. And we would come over, my titas. That's how I call my grandma, on the weekends, and the holidays. And we were a very, very tight family. So everything in my early years was this pink, bubbly story. My mom raised me and my two siblings. She was a stay-home mom, so she took care of us in every way. My dad brought home the dough, so he took care of us financially. My dad was a real, true entrepreneur. He had different businesses, from a private security agency to one of the very first cell phone distributors in town. He flew airplanes, little Cessnas, and he hustled. I barely saw him, but we got to travel together a bunch, and I have these beautiful memories of him always giving me everything and more. So at age 9, my parents made a huge decision to move to Chihuahua, which is a state further west. They've done all the preparations, and literally when my dad was on his way to get us in Torreon, he passed away in a car accident on the road. And my life took a 180 turn. Everything that we had pretty much left with my dad, because we were moving. My dad has all the businesses in Torreon. Same with our house. My mom did not know to who, how, when. Like, ahora sí que nada, nadita. She flew to Mexico City to try and get back her house, I remember, and somehow make deals. I mean, I cannot tell you in great detail because I was only a kid, right? But I intuitively knew everything was about to change. My mom's sister, who was already living in Phoenix, Arizona, told my mom, why don't you come here and just sort of start fresh, we'll help out, no biggie. So I think in a desperate attempt to survive, my mom took us to Phoenix. Me, my mom, and my older sister and younger brother moved into this single bedroom in my aunt's house. And I was terrified because I had only been to the US for a vacation, to chill, to go to Disney, to have fun, and then period, let's go back home. But this time was to stay for good, to adapt and to grow here. It feels like, in a way, my mourning was not only for my father, but also for my entire life in Mexico. And I think I was very lucky. I had private school education in Mexico. So this meant I had previous access to basic English grammar. But whoever has learned a second language knows that everything comes down to the moment when you try to communicate in that language, right? It's not the same. So going into elementary school here in the beginning was nerve-wracking because I understood English, but speaking it was the challenging part. And I remember the very first day, someone from the office took a picture of me for my student ID, gave me the ID, walked me through the school, and then led me to my classroom. And she walked me and introduced me to my new teacher, this angel in human form, Miss Wilson. Miss Wilson had like beautiful, bright blue eyes and talked to me in a very soft and clear way. So she stressed every syllable. So I really understood her. And I remember she handed me a cute little cutout of an owl with my name on it and explained to me that if I wanted to go to the bathroom, I had to ask and then place the owl on like a bathroom chart that they had in there. And then she showed me around in the classroom and explained how to log into my computer, which was inside this like cubicle that was assigned as my desk. I mean, Miss Wilson was next level gout. I don't know if she did this or not with every single student, but she'd give me a little aside time, just her and I. At the very end of her sessions, she'd give me presents, like these rings that I still have to this day. I think she went out of her way to make me feel very special. She did not speak a word of Spanish, but she was this kind soul who saw me for who I was and possibly where I was coming from. So she gave me this huge comfort and welcoming feeling. One thing I loved from the get-go was the diversity, the different skin colors. I mean, being in school with Asian kids, that was so not my reality back in Mexico. I had this friend, she was black, and she told me to call her K. She was it. And I remember one time these white girls accused me of calling them poop heads, which is like what? Like as a kid, crazy. And I did not do that, or at least not intentionally, I think. But they acted like they were so insulted. And I was there with my broken English trying to defend myself. And these kids knew I couldn't speak for myself. Kay charged in like a bull and advocated for me. I mean, she pretty much saved me from who knows what, I don't know. But it's funny, looking back, I feel like not being fluent in English then could have easily been seen as a barrier. But for me, it was a way to build these truly meaningful relationships that went beyond language. So soon I became a bookworm. I went to the library non-stop. So I was adjusting to the USA. I loved things like Miss Wilson reading Chicken Soup for the Soul in the mornings, learning to play piano. I enrolled in theater club. So I was learning, and I was weirdly enough in my element. On the other hand, not so much my older sister, who was 15 when we left Torreon. She had a very hard time settling because she had declared her true love for a guy back home, which, by the way, still, that's her husband now, crazy. But good for her. She stuck to her guns. Yeah, I mean, she snuck out in the middle of the night and took a bus across the border. And because she was still a minor, my mom decided to go after her and return to Mexico. I think my mom just really prioritized remaining together. So we all went back. And let me tell you, I was so devastated. I was, I had a little taste of something bigger than my hometown. And then I had to go back to Torreon. But this time, there was somewhere else I knew I belonged. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Mexico. I love Mexican culture, the food, and my family, and, you know, everything. But when I moved back to Torreon, it felt like I may be stuck there for the rest of my life, fantasizing about, you know, los Estados Unidos de America. So then fast forward 7 years, or 8 years around then, in Torreon, I became a rebellious, punkle, or so I thought, teenager. I was hanging out with the wrong people, getting myself in trouble way too often. And did you watch Euphoria by any chance?
Yes, the TV show. I enjoyed it.
Okay, so picture that, only Mexican style. And this was like 2010 to 2013. Also, at the same time, Torreon had become a battleground for the cartels. It was like a hotbed of automatic weapons, shootings, dead bodies in the streets. I mean, if you think of everything you see on your favorite cartel film, that was Torreon. So, yeah, it's not funny, but okay, so like two of my uncles, one of them was in the police force, and I was very close to him. They were both kidnapped, and just like that, disappeared. And, you know, actually I have written a script about my hometown, Torreon, and someday soon there will be a movie about it. So consider this a little trailer or something like that. And yeah, but I mean, it was very unsafe. So I believe I looked for ways of getting back to the safe feelings I had in Miss Wilson's class, and getting out of feeling like a total misfit in Torreon. One option was to become an au pair, which is a program where you get to study and live with a host family in exchange for childcare. And that's what brought me to New York City for the first time. And we had to go to school here in New York to be trained prior to going to our host families. What's crazy is that my feeling of belonging truly intensified when I walked around in the streets of Manhattan for the first time. I mean, it was beautiful. I had like an aha moment. I was like, wait a minute, this is it. This is the place, New York City. I most definitely had life-changing experiences with my host families. I love them. My last host family, the Winitskys, was this wonderful Jewish family living in South Philly, representing, who embraced me like their own and actually helped me to extend my visa as a student. Both parents were artists, so they were a huge inspiration for me to pursue the arts, and both kids were super cool kids as well. And then life, you know, just kind of like destiny just kept throwing me the right opportunities and the sweetest people for me to remain here. Eventually, I moved for good to New York City to pursue filmmaking, and I also got my citizenship. Yay!
So what was it like getting your citizenship?
Oh, God. Well, that was a process, a very long process, if I may say so myself. It was also during COVID, so that's probably why it took such a long time. Also, the ceremony was through a video call. I did go to the Immigration Services building, but they sat us like every other chair from each other. And then the judge just called in on Zoom, and then we all said an oath, and then got our paperwork. I actually got a personal letter from POTUS welcoming me, and this like little cute flag. And yeah, I still visit Mexico, and at least once a year, but my journey in the U.S. has been magical for real.
Thanks, Fadia. That was quite a story. Where can my listeners find your films?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, they're on my website. It's www.fatstudios.com.
Thanks again so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and good luck.
Oh, thank you, Greg, for having me on Pass the Mic. Love this podcast.
Are you ready to tell your own story on The Compulsive Storyteller? We're launching a new segment of guest storytelling, and we want to hear your stories. Email a voice recording to hello@thecompulsivestoryteller.com. I'll play selected stories on upcoming episodes. Try to be as clear as possible in your recording, and we reserve the right to lightly edit them for length and clarity. Leave your name or contact information in your voicemail or email, and let us know if you'd like the story to be anonymous. I can't wait to hear from you. The Compulsive Storyteller is now co-produced by Greg Lefebvre and Fadia Monserrath, who's also arranged the music and created the special effects. Emily Ramon does design, research, editing, and marketing. Peter Kokoma has made our theme music and for many seasons co-produced the show with me. If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Compulsive Storyteller, and we'd love to hear from you. This podcast is independently produced, so we really appreciate all your help and support. Share the show with your friends, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. You can also check out our website, thecompulsivestoryteller.com, for more information. Thanks for listening, and if you didn't like this one, the next one will be another story. All characters and events portrayed in this podcast are based on my truth, with some names and facts changed for privacy. The conversations and dialogues are based on my best memory, but are not word-for-word recreations.